Hi guys, it is so nice to see you yet again. This time I've chosen a question that came from a very dear friend of mine who again always has really good questions for me. Thank you Nikita for this one. I especially chose this question because I believe a lot of artists find themselves asking these questions. So the question primarily is, how does one balance the tightrope of pleasing the client without compromising on your art? How do you handle the two types of clients on the opposite ends of the whole spectrum? The ones that are totally indifferent and don't give any input feedback, and the ones who think they know photography and keep meddling and make demands which don't sit well with your sensibilities or ask you to copy something that they've seen somewhere else. And if you do have to compromise on your art, how do you manage with that emotionally? Is there anger or frustration? That's a giant question, actually, Nikita, and I'm very glad that you asked it because I do have some thoughts to share. So, here's the short answer, Nikita. Because I put up the kind of work that I want to receive, most of the clients that come to me want exactly what I offer. So, I believe that's a part of building your brand. On all the various platforms where one can display their work, I have implicitly and explicitly communicated my artistic vision and the kind of work that I personally love doing. A large part of the communication I have with my clients is about educating them about the field, telling them about all the choices that they have, and I listen to what they want. But if there's a need for it, I also pour my heart in communicating what they could and should want according to me. I'm very careful when I do this about not attaching any kind of judgment to what they want because there's nothing to judge, right? They want what they want. But very often people don't know all the other choices that they have. So I do that. I pour my heart and soul in showing them what all they can choose from and hope that they understand where I'm coming from. Here's a sentence that I've used very often while communicating with my clients. I say, thank you for sharing your thoughts on this. I will keep it in mind. You have seen my work and are talking to me because you're convinced of it. So now just trust me and have faith in my ability and vision because that is what works for me the best. When I say this and when I say it with warmth and without any judgment, it has worked for me almost 90% of the times. So, what do I do when it does not work for me? Because, of course, there are times when it doesn't. For that, I'm gonna need the long answer. Of course, artistic integrity, staying true to your aesthetic, to your sensibilities and values is extremely important. But do you know what else is really, really important?
I'm talking about this.
I don't know why we've made money such a bad word. In the beginning, when I just started working, I used to actually feel dirty while sending out quotations to clients for my hard work and time. It makes no sense. Where does this guilt and resistance even come from?
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
So, after a lot of deliberation and learning, I have figured out what works for me the best. I take up work that either gives me complete financial satisfaction or it needs to give me complete creative satisfaction. And if it gives me neither, I don't want the work. And if it gives me both, well, that is a very sweet deal for me. But here's the thing that's really tricky, right? When I commit to taking up an assignment, it has to be a full body yes for me. I need to know exactly why I'm taking up the assignment and I need to have complete clarity and mindfulness when I agree to do it. If I lack the clarity, then my body and my mind reacts to it. And that has been really unpleasant in the past. For example, if I take up an assignment that is creatively not that satisfying, but I'm getting decent money out of it, it's a little boring and routine or whatever. If I know my reason, if I'm very mindful of it, I don't feel frustrated. And same goes for assignments that I take up for creative challenges. If I can seek oneness with my art, if it challenges and stretches my creativity, then I don't feel like the money is missing. But I need to have either of these two. If I don't get either, that is what causes anxiety and frustration for me. Now, I myself am truly fortunate to get most of the times the kind of work that I want. But of course, I find myself asking, what if I only get work that satisfies me financially? What if I never get work that challenges me artistically? What if my life is reduced to paying bills and paying off loans? That is a very, very real fear. I will not claim to have tackled it or have an answer to this fear. It's there, but I think there's no point in denying it. I have just learned to live with that discomfort till it is not that uncomfortable anymore. So, how to mitigate the client's expectations and how to communicate with them is a relatively easier question to answer than this one. The hard question here is how to negotiate this tightrope walk, like you said, between artistic and financial satisfaction. And although there isn't a very concrete answer to this question, there's a huge amount of relief knowing that I'm not alone in feeling this way. All artists feel this way, and it's a completely normal fear, a completely normal thing to go through. So, I do hope that the artists community everywhere in the world recognizes this fact, gives it voice and language, and I hope that artists hold each other's hands through it and support each other. So you must be thinking to yourself, did she just say that she takes up work which is for money? If it satisfies me financially, will I just do anything that comes my way? The answer to that is no, not really. I have not accepted so many offers that came my way because, like I said earlier, if I don't have a full body yes to work that comes my way, I don't take it up. But I'm very, very aware of the fact that it is a privilege to be able to say no to work. So if I'm ever denied that privilege, if I'm ever in a place where I simply can't afford to say no, I will take up work that comes my way without any shame. There's a difference between shame and guilt. Brené Brown, in one of her brilliant podcasts with Tim Ferriss, says that shame is when you say, I am a loser, whereas guilt is when you say, I did a loser thing. Guilt gives you a lot more agency because when you say you did something stupid, you still have the control to not do it. So, in this process, if we ever feel any kind of guilt, I think it's really important to address it. It's okay to feel it because guilt, I think, is a very useful construct of our consciousness that pushes us to be better. So for example, I've often felt guilt when while shooting weddings, animals were treated unkindly, or there was a lot of plastic waste or wastage of food. Just some things at the top of my mind. I felt guilty to be a part of something that enabled that. Now I've processed and addressed these things in my own way with my clients. The solutions are very rarely simple, but it is important to process them and it is important to give them words. And then also, of course, convert those feelings into action. I have a small footnote for this. I have often been called a bad businessman for not taking up all the work that comes my way, for in fact rejecting assignments that were offering great money.
Who do you think you are? What gives you the right?
I've been asked, who am I to reject work when there are people in our country that are literally struggling for even a single assignment out there. There are people who have also been bullied into taking more work for money that they do not need. In the process, they've made their own lives miserable.
My killers who will not take no for an answer. My fucking warriors who will not hang up the phone until their client either buys or fucking die!
Now, who decides how much work is enough work? Is it 20 weddings a year? Is it 15? Is it 10? Is it 5? Is it 60? How do we decide how much money is enough for us? Do we decide how much earning or money is enough based on the kind of life that we desire?
Wake up, Daddy's home.
Welcome home, sir.
Or do we do it the other way around? Do we say, okay, I earn this much, so let me build a life that will be comfortable in that? What is the right approach, or what is wiser to follow? I don't know the answer. I think both approaches are fine, and there's no need to judge any of them, as long as they are mindful. I think it's not okay to mindlessly bust your ass to earn money without really knowing why or for what.
I want you to deal with your problems by becoming rich!
I think that really makes people miserable. It's also important to not make our own lives difficult by attaching judgment to whatever we do. We are allowed to make mistakes. Thank you, Nikita, for this amazing question. I went on an entire journey. It made me pose difficult questions that I myself don't have answers to yet, but I have started thinking about them and I hope that you guys have as well. Thank you so much for listening to me, guys. I will see you next week for another Q&A. The next question is also very, very interesting. Do stay tuned. Take care of yourselves. Bye.